Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of NFL Super Friends here on the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. We got a full cast of characters once again on this show. No Jarrett Bailey this week. He's away in Mobile, covering Joe Milton and the Senior Bowl down there in Mobile. But Jarrett will be back next week. We got a big time guest with us here. But before we get to that big time guest filling in for Jarrett this week, we've got Evan Sowards of 49ers Hub. After weeks away, he's back. His team's in the Super Bowl. He's feeling pretty good. Evan, how are you?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like you answered that. I think I've lost a solid couple decades off of my lifespan after the last 2 weeks, but yeah, feeling good.
There you go. Hey, you still get it's been worthwhile because your team's in the Super Bowl again, which is nice. A lot of teams don't have the run that the Niners are on over the last 6 years, so enjoy it, sir. Most teams don't. As Dan Campbell told his team after the game, we're not coming back. Also here, SB Nation's JP Acosta, as he is each and every week. JP, good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm a little bummed that I couldn't make it out to Mobile for the Senior Bowl this week, but I'm going to be following from afar, still scouting, trying to figure out who's going to be the next, I guess, Brock Purdy. Sure, if we're doing this.
Could we chill? What did he do to you?
I don't even want to get started with that, but
look, man, all I know. Never mind, I'm not going to do this yet. I'm not going to get JP this riled up right out of the gate here. Also here, spilling in for Jarrett, one of the best young NFL writers and analysts going today. He's been on this show before and always great and learn a lot from Seth of Sumer Sports, a very good NFL website that you should go check out if you have not already done so, with Falcons legend Thomas Dimitrov, Eric Eager, and the crew over there. Tej, good evening, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. Yeah. Thanks for having me back. Have passed the 24 hours since my Lions have lost to Evan's 49ers. So I'm starting to get over it a little bit, but, still taking some time for sure.
I can't stress it enough. I commend you for even coming on. I will be as humble and not a douchebag as possible because I love the Lions and I love their story this year. And I hate to be on this side of the camera with you right now.
He doesn't. Don't listen to him, Tej. This man has had so much fun.
So quickly.
This is going to get bad.
I don't think so.
We're about to see here, because the first thing out of the gate here, Evan, the Niners won. I'm opening the floor. You've been away for a few weeks. You've got to see the Niners put together 2 back-to-back, insane comebacks.
You don't need to preface it. Let's just get going.
He's got it. He's firing.
No. But first and foremost, I do want to go over the jersey because I think it matters. And I know that there's going to be a million 49ers that had their superstitious story, but I just think mine was crazy. So I'm in Mammoth, which is the main mountain where you go snowboarding outside of LA. It was my birthday party. I've got like 12 or 13 people at a big giant house. Not one of them cares about the NFL. I'm watching the game in my jersey. Everyone's drinking and partying around me. No one cares. The Packers game is going poorly, as we all know. I was feeling very negative about it, and I was like, they're going to probably lose this game. I see it coming. You can sometimes just feel the bad vibes in a game, right? And so I'm like, all right, well, we have to immediately leave after this to go out, so I'm just going to get ready. Like, I'm just going to go change real quick. So I threw off my jersey. I was wearing the Kittle jersey, throw it off, put normal clothes on. Okay, good to go. Let's go back downstairs, finish the game. They obviously win. I was like, I don't even know what just happened. So the Lions game was worse. The Lions were just beating the shit out of the 49ers for the first half. Everything the Lions wanted to do, they did. And everything the Niners tried to do didn't work. I mean, hats off to Ben Johnson. The opening drive, it was literally like Ben Johnson was just like twisting a mustache and giggling as he wrote the plays out like the last week or two. You know what I mean? Like it was like an evil villain. It's just like everything he wanted to do worked. And then on top of that, not only did that happen, but like 49ers players were just missing tackles left and right. Chase Young, who they traded a third and some change for. Chase Young, the number 2 pick in the draft, this monster of a man was supposed to come over and just dominate with his old teammate Nick Bosa. The dude is literally in the NFC Championship after getting saved from the dumpster fire that is Washington football. In the NFC Championship, 1 game away from the Super Bowl, and he's taking plays off that result in a touchdown. So I'm just sitting here going, okay, Ambry Thomas is getting absolutely cooked. Chase Young is getting absolutely cooked. Like, I want you guys to
They're
go
running on 3rd and 12, and there's nothing the
Right.
Niners can do about it.
3rd and 12, the 3rd and 12 run, just open holes in the middle. And I'm like, okay, this is worst case scenario. And everyone's like, oh, it's only, it's only 21 points, blah, 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 whatever, like 17 points. It felt as if they were just a completely outclassed team. So rather than me go on my little annoying whatever spiel on why the Niners won, I genuinely wanted to talk to Tej and just understand how you think something like that happened. Because I know everyone wants to point to the 4th down calls and him going for it in those missed opportune times. But how did both teams seemingly get absolutely destroyed in 2 separate halves?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a really interesting point there. And you look at the first half for the Lions, quick touchdown on the opening drive, second touchdown on the second drive. They had to punt on the 3rd drive, but they went touchdown and then kicked a field goal on 4th and 3 to close out the half. You can kind of debate that, but we're probably not going to talk about that too much. But when you look at the second half, the Lions did drive down the field on their first possession. They had a 4th and 3 where Josh Reynolds and Jared Goff have hit that same curl route multiple times, and they just missed on it. Goff threw it a little bit low. Reynolds should have caught it, but didn't catch it. Second drive, you have Jahmyr Gibbs fumble on the first play of that drive. Then you have a 3 and out where you're not able to down the punt at the 1 yard line. It goes back for a touchback. You have another 4th down where you run mesh. Jameson Williams is open, and just Goff isn't able to get to the backside of the progression in time. And then the last possession was basically garbage time at that point. So, it really all happened so quickly for the Lions because of the 2 4th down stops and the fumble, where the 49ers were able to tie up the game with 3 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter from being down 24-7 at halftime, just because the Lions had so many self-inflicted mistakes on offense, and the 49ers offense took complete advantage of that in the second half.
Do you think that was it because I mean, obviously you're a very analytical individual. Do you think that vibes had anything to do with this? You saw CJ Gardner-Johnson literally waving to 49ers fans bye at the half. Do you think that the Lions maybe just got a little too ahead of themselves? Were they getting a little too confident? Did they kind of feel like maybe this game's over?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, CJ Gardner-Johnson's such an interesting guy. I mean, for him to take the cheap shot on Debo on the interception return was a really strange situation, actually. But I do think that the lack of experience from this roster did play a role in what exactly happened in the second half, where you have one of the youngest rosters in the league. I mean, they showed that graphic during the game. There was only 3 or 4 players on the Lions that have actually played in a conference championship game before. You still have a relatively young head coach in Dan Campbell, who is in his 3rd year, first time ever making a playoff run as a head coach. So I think that when you see other teams and how they often have to go through different trials and tribulations before they eventually reach the Super Bowl, that was some of what's happening to the Lions yesterday. Was they were still feeling out how exactly to play in a moment like this, and to not let everything unravel when it started to go sideways in the second half.
It does
that's a really big point. We've seen, especially from the Chiefs and from the Niners, this playoff run, great experienced teams are able to prevent the snowball effect. They're able to prevent a bad play turning into a catastrophic string of plays. The interception that hit Kendall Vidor in the face. Like, you don't. I hate to say it because it's such a cliche, but if they could catch, they would play receiver. That's kind of the thing there. But you can tell great teams are able to prevent the snowball effect from happening. The Niners went down 24-7, and we're like, okay, like, we're here, we're good. Like, we'll go into half, we'll fix it, and then we're going to come right back out. I did have to mention that the last time the Niners came back from 17-plus down the NFC Championship game, they beat the Atlanta Falcons.
That's not necessary.
That was absolutely necessary. But
Nope.
anyway.
No. Speaking of sidebar, the Falcons are introducing Raheem Morris on February 5th, which I don't.
You're not taking up 49ers airtime to talk about the Falcons.
Well, I'm just saying they're doing it on the anniversary.
You got
JP.
You got JP mentioning them. You would talk about it later. In the meantime,
Justin Fields
shut
season.
your damn mouth.
I just had to mention that every stat that has to do with a historic collapse has to do with the Falcons.
But always. So the one thing, and I like. I almost can't talk about the good things that are involving the 49ers because all I can think about it as a fan, right? We've seen 2 NFC championship losses. We've seen 2 Super Bowl losses in the last 15 years. Like the Niners, like when you think of playoff collapses in the NFL in the last 15 years, you think the 49ers. So we're going to, after watching them barely beat the Packers and barely beat the Lions, go up against the juggernaut that is the Patrick Mahomes Kansas City Chiefs, while also being the Taylor Swift year. And if you think for 1 second that the NFL does not want the confetti falling down on the 50-yard line.
He's already starting the narrative.
And it's not a narrative. I'm not like, listen, we can separate this entirely from football. I think in a vacuum, the Chiefs are probably one of the best Chiefs teams that we've seen in the since Patrick Mahomes has become the starter. They have a defense that's very good right now, that's playing very good. They went up against a Ravens team that had this monstrous defense and punched them in the mouth. But outside of all of that, you can't tell me the NFL is not like doing the numbers, the impressions alone. It's billions of dollars we're talking about if the Chiefs win.
Well, hold on. It's not about if they win. People, they just want them there. So the eyeballs are going to be there regardless.
No. If they win,
season's over after this.
If they win, the storylines of Travis and Taylor winning the Super Bowl will be spoken across the globe for a month.
Imagine, what are we doing?
What if Travis proposes on the 50-yard line?
Full soon. They've only been dating.
What's the number? Tej, you're an analytics guy. You're a numbers guy. How much money are we talking?
That's probably going to be a parlay. That's probably going to be a bet, right? Like I didn't think about that.
So I did see FanDuel posted that today is if there's going to be a proposal after the Super Bowl. And No was sitting at like minus 1,200 or something crazy like that. So they don't seem to think it's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to like dip off football too much, but like genuinely, like I do feel like the game is terrifying coming up. Like it's going to be a very hard game, and there's going to be so much pressure for the 49ers to beat this juggernaut.
So I think that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why playing the Chiefs is so tough, because I guess the best way to compare it is when in Naruto, when you get caught in a genjutsu and you just don't know what's going on. That's the Chiefs. They force you to play so uptight. They force you to play perfect. The Ravens ran the ball like 9 times on Sunday. That's not what the Ravens do. They led the NFL in rushing. But for some reason against the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, it's always you got to go throw for throw because that's the only way you can beat them.
Why is that? By the way, and also I was thinking about that. Like when they were talking about that in the game, and I'm literally just sitting there going, Kyle Shanahan's going to do the same thing.
Because people are so afraid of giving Patrick Mahomes the ball with the chance to win the game at the end. Like if you try to go shot for shot with Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to win. But I think if you try and ball control it, like the Bills tried to ball control it and still lost the game, I honestly do think that game plan by the Bills really spooked the Ravens off of their game plan, where it's like, oh
Hmm.
shit, like we just saw the Ravens run for over 100+ yards. And Josh Allen was scrambling everywhere, and they still lost the game.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like it's very much a you play so uptight when you play the Chiefs, and that benefits Kansas City because regardless of who has a better record, which team is better, they have 15. So regardless of what happens during the game, if he gets the ball with a chance to win the game, all the pressure is on you. And I think that goes into game planning during the week where you're like, I don't want to give him the ball with the chance to win.
So what's y'all's gut reaction on this matchup? Does it feel like it's better for the Niners to get the Chiefs here? Do you feel like for the Chiefs it's better to get the Niners? What's your gut instinct on how this matchup will ultimately unfold?
I would be terrified of playing this Chiefs team because the Chiefs have somehow figured out how to run an offense with receivers that we thought were bad. Like, I think this is the coolest thing about the Chiefs this year is the defense has given them enough of a margin for error during the season to figure out what was going on with the offense. It is the inverse of what happened last year. Last year, Kansas City's offense was phenomenal, brutally efficient, one of the most efficient offenses we've ever seen. The defense had a lot of young guys in the secondary. They were trying to figure it out. And then come playoff time, they figured it out, and they were one of the best defenses in the playoffs. This year, the defense was the one that kind of kept them in games, helped them win games, while the offense figured out what was going on with the drops, the route running, just the offensive issues. And now we've gotten to a point where MVS, I swear I thought MVS was going to drop that pass at the end of the game. That was a pass MVS drops if we're in like October. He drops that pass. But the growth of this team offensively has made them even more terrifying because you can't say, oh, we're going to make MVS beat us or we're going to make Rashee Rice and Justin Watson beat us because they did. Like, they can do that. And I think that's a huge testament to how well the defense is played and how well Patrick Mahomes and the offense has kind of grown with this team.
So the Chiefs are going to be out there. Was it their nose tackle or is it one of their defensive linemen? And
Charles Omenihu.
Well, no, not him. Him as well. Their pass rusher, Charles Omenihu, former 49ers, towards the ACL. But another person, maybe it was the guard.
Nadi didn't play against the against Baltimore, but I mean, you're going to get an extra couple of weeks. So he's got 3 weeks to try and get ready for this game. And Tooney didn't play. So if Tooney decides to come back from a torn pec, like that improves the run game even more.
So here's what I want to know. Obviously, it's hard to come back and like look at the San Francisco 49ers beating the Lions and complain. They scored 34 points. They did a great job, obviously. It seems like Brandon Ayuk has become to a point where you have to get him the ball as much as possible. I think he's earned it, right? Like, I think at this point, he's been dominant in the playoffs. He was dominant towards the end of the year. I think he deserves it. I think Debo, like, he needs to get the passes. Obviously, he had the most targets, led in receiving yards. But, like, it seems like he's doing these he's rushing with Debo and knowing that they're not going to work. Like, the Debo running is very rarely working anymore. But here's my George Kittle had 3 targets last night, and really for the most of the game, he had 1. George Kittle, I feel like the Niners would be doing better for themselves and maybe not having these slow starts if they're getting him the ball more. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that just like the 49ers having the 4 main weapons and then even like Juwan Jennings and Kyle Juszczyk can step up from time to time like they did yesterday and like they did against the Packers, especially Jennings, is like there is going to be a player or two that's like, you know, somewhat left out of the game flow just because of how the game is going. So yeah, like when you looked at Debo's runs like in 2020 when they were awesome and like you think about that Packers playoff game where he was able to break off multiple runs to win the 49ers that game. Now that you have McCaffrey, there's less of a need for those unless you're just doing it just to have the the play calling diversity and making defenses prepare for multiple looks. Like McCaffrey at this point is the best rusher in the NFL. Like he's someone that will give you plus advantage rushes throughout the game. So yeah, I would like to see less of those Debo rushes, but I'm totally with you with the Ayuk point. Like I think that at this point, Ayuk is one of the most efficient receivers in the entire league right now. And as long as they keep finding ways to get him the ball, and he makes the play like the ball that bounces off Vildor's helmet and catches it and then gets the touchdown a couple plays later on that drive. Like he's just continuing to make those plays the entire season. And I think that he can continue that, and that the game plan should be, pretty focused on him in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl, even though, he's going to have a pretty tough matchup against L'Jarius Sneed.
It was so frustrating watching Laporta get the ball all of those times and like just seeing how dominant the Lions could be when really targeting Laporta. And it's like,
well, that's because Sam Laporta is their second best receiver.
I understand that.
It's more of like they do that out of course, because Sam Laporta is good, but it's also out of necessity. Like after Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, you're throwing to Josh Reynolds and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like you got to do that when you don't have Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel or Kyle Juszczyk, who made a phenomenal catch. Like
I get that, but at the same time, like outside of Ayuk and Deebo, like McCaffrey was their second leading receiver or their third leading receiver. So it's like it's not like they're using these other receivers. Juwan Jennings is getting some clutch plays here and there, but like I don't know, man. Like if you need to move the chains, if you need to get momentum going, like George Kittle is that guy, and he has shown it time and time again. And it just felt like they were missing that in the first half. And that's all I can think about is like, how do you make sure you don't start slow against the Chiefs? Because you will not have that same wiggle room that you've had with these other teams.
So I actually think the most important matchup going into Chiefs-Niners is after the catch. I think this is not only will this be the best defense the 49ers have faced in the postseason and the second best they faced this season outside of Baltimore, this is going to be the best tackling group of DBs they have seen since Baltimore. The tackling performance they put on against Baltimore was amazing. Trent McDuffie flying across the field on a jet sweep where he's in man coverage on Zay Flowers, and he meets Zay Flowers at the point where he's going to turn up field, and he stops for a 3-yard gain. The Justin Reed beginning of the second half, Ravens try to run pin pull, and this play should work. The motion bumps the linebackers all back in. It's going to be an outside edge run, but Justin Reed comes flying off the roof in quarters and just hammers Gus Edwards for a 1-yard gain. They're able to create they're able to mitigate the yards after the catch. So the Deebo checkdowns against the Lions, those would go for 8 yards because the Lions cannot tackle. Like that is something that has been a problem for them. That has been the problem when Brock Purdy would scramble, the Lions couldn't tackle. That was their biggest issue. They're not going to face that same team that can't tackle in the Super Bowl. So how they manufacture yards after the catch, which is a major part of the Niners offense, how they manage to do that against a Chiefs team that is not going to allow them to do that is going to be the biggest thing. I think the tackling in this game is going to be so fun to watch.
No, I mean, that's a great point to bring up because when I was looking at it today, the 49ers are first in the NFL in yards after catch per reception. The Chiefs are second, right? So these are offenses that are predicated on what you can do after the catch. And when you look at a game like Mahomes had yesterday, where I think he only had 3 or 4 passes that went past 20 air yards, like it was mostly a game where he was just taking what was given to him in front of him and relying on that yards after catch. And like, that's what's been impressive about how Mahomes has changed his game to fit the way that defenses are playing the Chiefs offense. And then on the 49ers side of things, when you have these specific weapons that are built on having this yards after catch ability, where McCaffrey has the highest rate of forced missed tackles when having the ball in his hands. It's Deebo's specialty is breaking tackles. Ayuk is able to get yards after catch. Kittle's able to get yards after catch. Like, I think, like you mentioned, JP, the tackling is going to be crucial in this game because that's usually the difference between, making it a 4th and 2 versus a first down is whether you can actually wrap up on some of these plays.
Mm-hmm. And even like I said, Deebo Samuel, where this Niners offense uses Deebo is he is the greatest check down in the NFL because they're never just normal check downs. It's, I'll throw this ball behind the line of scrimmage and I'll get 8 yards. Like it's not a check down at that point. It is a viable route because he breaks so many tackles. The Chiefs don't miss a lot of tackles. And I think a cool thing that Spags is going to do, or at least I think he's going to do, is in the second half, the Lions in general play a lot of man coverage. They live and die in man. Brock Purdy would scramble in the second half. Posted his highest, I think his career highest total EPA in scrambles in the NFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Spags is going to play a lot of man. I think it's going to be a lot of zone pressures because that's really what, if we think about some of Brock Purdy's worst games this year, it's been zone pressures outside of like rain games, like the Packers rain game and the Browns rain game. It's zone pressures that have gotten to him where it's disciplined rush. And I think that's something that the Chiefs did really well against the Ravens on Sunday was disciplined pass rush. They rarely ever lost contain and kind of condensed the pocket and made things uncomfortable for Lamar. And that's where I think you can affect Brock Purdy is where you get him, you show him different things in coverage and change the picture. He's gonna throw one. He's gonna throw one, and it's just up to the defense to catch it. Again, just don't let the ball hit you in the face mask.
It feels, I don't know how to say this and sound like intelligent at all. I don't think it's possible, but the 49ers defense going into this Chiefs game feels like they have a couple really like clutch Super Bowl plays in them, like between what Greenlaw's been doing, between like the vibe that Fred Warner has had, been jumping all over the field. Like there's nothing to base this off. It'll be something fun to look back on, but like I definitely feel like we could be in store for like some really memorable Super Bowl moments.
Do y'all buy the momentum thing of like,
of course,
look, the Niners have had their just will tested in really, really difficult ways, even as the favorite, but to have their backs against the wall at home and to see how that could have easily spiraled out of control against the Packers and bounce back and take care of business, to doing it all over again the following week where you're like, okay, because I thought they were going to take care of the Lions. I didn't think it was going to be a close game versus.
I didn't either. Yeah.
And it went the opposite where we're sitting at half and I'm like, I think this is over. You're looking around, you're like, I think the Niners are cooked.
I thought it was done.
Yeah.
You never know with the Lions. You never know.
If you were looking at me, if Tesh was looking at me in the middle of the game and he was like, listen, this is a very young team and they're very inexperienced, just like the 49ers were in 2019 when Debo was a rookie and, Bosa was in his second year. I'd be like, okay, maybe there is a chance, right? But like in the moment, you're like, they're fucked.
Of course. I think that momentum thing can be real when it comes to the Niners, but again, I think it also applies to the Chiefs because 2 weeks ago the Chiefs weren't supposed to be here because they're a Tyler Bass missed field goal away from going to overtime. Like they had to go on the road to Buffalo, then go on the road to Baltimore, and I think this is going to be a really, really fun game. I think a lot of people kind of panned it because it's like it's not the new matchup, but I think it's going to be a really fun game schematically. These two teams
it's
are
probably the two best teams in the NFL this year, right? Like I think these are the two best.
I would say so. I think
that's kind of what you want, right? Ultimately,
I don't think it's
I agree with you. Like from a team rating standpoint, 49ers were the best team in the NFC, like by far. I mean, you saw what happened to the Eagles and Cowboys at the end of the year. The thing with the Chiefs that I think is really interesting is if you just look at how the Vegas sports books will have their team ratings, or you look at any advanced metrics, the Ravens will still be higher than the Chiefs even after the Chiefs just beat them head to head. But I think at this point the Chiefs have gotten the benefit of the doubt where you just have to accept that playoff Mahomes, playoff Andy Reid, playoff Spags, playoff Travis Kelce, they're all real things. You guys brought up at the beginning of the show, they were just figuring out stuff in the regular season. And that's why they felt worse to us headed into the playoffs. But now we are reminded that they can just have these hyper specific games where they can just take over and dominate like they did against Baltimore.
And it really does sound like, again, to make the basketball comparison, it sounds like LeBron. Like it is very similar to, just wait to get LeBron in the playoffs and we'll see what happens. Get to the playoffs and then just let it all figure it out. And now Andy Reid has 2 weeks to prepare for a 49ers defense that, while they played well in the second half, I think a lot of the first half, like the schematic issues and like the personnel issues of the Niners defense were kind of shown a little bit. The Chiefs obviously don't have the Lions offensive line, which is arguably the best offensive line in football. But I think a couple of the problems I saw at the Niners defensively, first, they don't really have a true like nose tackle, which is why the Lions kind of blasted them off the ball in the first half, especially in the under center run game. And I think to beat this Niners team, you have to challenge them on the outside. You have to be able to make the throws on the outside that kind of, I mean, that's how they want you to get in those obvious pass situations where you're trying to throw it on the edges of the defense, but you're not going to have a lot of time. But Patrick Mahomes is the ultimate, he is the ultimate mitigator. I think there was a stat going around yesterday. He's only been sacked once in over 100 dropbacks in the playoffs.
It's so annoying.
Which doesn't feel real. Considering the teams that he has played against, it doesn't feel real.
So he's only gotten sacked twice this playoffs on 40 pressures. And both of those sacks happened in the second half of the Ravens game. So up until the second half of the Ravens game, he hadn't been sacked the entire postseason, which is just wild. Mahomes is just
he really is Goku, like Ultra Instinct. Like he knows when to move away from defenders, like at the perfect moment, so that he's never in like actual jeopardy. Like when he was scrambling in that one play, like it felt like he was like just kind of like gliding, kicking back. Like he just was like never truly worried.
His facial awareness is like insane, considering he knows where everybody is at and where everybody's going to be, and he can just create little pockets for himself. So how the Niners get pressure on someone that isn't a statue in the pocket? I mean, Jared Goff had his best game, I think, ever when it comes to moving around against the 49ers. But this is a totally different animal in Patrick Mahomes. I think how they manage to keep contained pass rush, where you're still trying to get after the quarterback, but you're maintaining rush lanes, is going to be very important, because at times the Niners defensive line has been a little bit undisciplined, just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But that
Can we
tiny
talk about
bit,
that?
Let's.
Can we talk about that? What the fuck? Everyone wants to talk about Steve Wilkes, like, oh, impressive, like second half adjustments. How about just don't need to fucking adjust, dickhead? They have like almost an entirely fucking like. Are you telling me that you can't defend against a team that has a decent mid-white quarterback with a very athletic running back, a giant white tight end from Iowa, and a fucking like thick athletic receiver? It's all you look at all season long in training camp, and you don't know how to defend. Like, why do I have to wait till the third quarter for you to figure out how to defend it?
Where I think the Chiefs can really get after the Niners, and it's something that Chiefs haven't really run this year, is because the Niners are so aggressive defensively downhill. The Lions used a lot of trap plays, a lot of crunch, where they would let the defensive line get a few steps too far upfield. Oh, the Jameson Williams touchdown. Nick Bosa just completely forgets where the football is. Like they kind of sucker him in on the outside zone, and Jameson Williams just runs right past him. Those kind of undisciplined plays cannot happen against
It's crazy
the Chiefs.
though, right? It's crazy though that like even though the Niners had a lot of sacks this year, it feels like it's never when it matters. It's rarely when is that crazy? Like, shouldn't Nick Bosa be dominating a game?
It feels like they're still waiting for the Nick Bosa game, like the DPOI Nick Bosa game, where he kind of takes over. But I think with the amount of attention that he gets, it opens up lanes for Javon Hargrave, who has played fairly well, albeit in terms of he's played a different role than he has in than he did in Philly. I keep thinking about the defensive game or the offensive game plan the Chiefs had against the Niners last year in Brock Purdy's first start when McCaffrey first came over from the Niners, and they used the Niners' aggression defensively against them. And I'm just like, Andy Reid's got 2 weeks to prepare for that same defense. And I would be terrified.
I said it and I'll say it again. Watching what the Chiefs did to the Ravens, I'm just like, the Niners are going to do the same thing. The Niners are going to overcommit to throwing, and they're going to forget about Christian McCaffrey, and we're going to be looking at the third quarter, and it's going to be like 31 to like 17, and I'm going to be like on the roof with a knife. Just
well, you've won that way the last 2 weeks, so
yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes, brother. He comes back and wins games. We already know that from 2019 when they lost the Super Bowl.
But you're also
not only that. This ain't Joe Barry calling a defense, and this is not the Lions. The Lions are great. They are very young. They don't have the horses that the Chiefs do defensively yet. This is not the team that, again, I say it a lot. Fuck around if you want to. You will find out. You do not want to fuck around with this Chiefs team because they will hammer you as soon as you think like, oh, this is not the Chiefs team that they were in years before. Yeah, this is arguably the most complete Chiefs team that we have seen in the Patrick Mahomes era, because now if the offense is struggling, the defense can keep them in the game and wait until Patrick Mahomes finds an answer. Or like the Ravens game, Mike McDonald and the Ravens defense played phenomenal after the first drive. The Chiefs did not score in the second half, and it didn't matter because the Chiefs defense pitched a shutout in the second half. Like it's really hard to play this team this year because they have found so many different ways to beat you, so many different ways to win that, look, you can't go in thinking you're going to go blow for blow with Patrick Mahomes in the passing game. You dance with the girl that got you there.
Yeah.
Tej, buy or sell? I made a joke about this at the top of the show with Dan Campbell. Former player, he knows what it's like. I mean, just when your season ends and knowing how the locker room dynamics change, some guys will be still around, obviously, in Detroit next year. Some guys will not. But he was real by all accounts about like, hey, it's really, really freaking hard to make it back to where we just got to, the NFC title game, having the Niners on the ropes. I mean, the Falcons, I think, would have assumed that after even the Super Bowl loss that they would be back. They won a playoff game the following year, but they have not sniffed. They haven't even hosted a playoff game in their new building, and they've been in their new building for a little bit now. So buy or sell, the Lions will be back here next year. The Lions will be an NFC title team in that, hey, they're still super young. They are bringing a lot of their main pieces back. Jahmyr Gibbs might be the best back in football next year with the way he's humming along all across the board. Or are you selling that and you think this was their shot?
I've been fighting for my life in some group chats with this exact question today. I'm selling this.
No.
When you look at the line, like I think when you look at the NFC as a whole and like the path that the Lions got this year, playing a Rams team that was a year ahead of schedule with regards to their defense, like having Aaron Donald and 10 random guys in the first round, and then getting pretty lucky and playing a Buccaneers team in the second round. Like, it was impressive to go toe to toe with the 49ers, but I still think that the path was easy for the Lions, easy division, easy schedule, easier path in the playoffs. Like, I still think Lions will be a good football team next year, but there's so many examples of the 2018 Saints or the 2019 Titans or even the 2016 Falcons, where it's just very hard to replicate this success year after year. And like things get tougher the year after that. Like I was really impressed with Dan Campbell showing that self-awareness, like saying that quote to the locker room that it'll be twice as hard next year, because I think that is something good to mention and something that needs to be mentioned, because when teams try to run back the same iteration of a team that made it to the conference championship that from the year before, the margins become much thinner, especially when you lose a play caller as good as Ben Johnson, as I assume he's going to be leaving for a head coach.
But we don't know. What if Ben Johnson's back? Tej, like, what if he's back? Because Aaron Glenn's back by all accounts. If Ben's back and he says no to DC and it's a stunner, then are you more apt to say they can run it back and get back?
Oh, for sure. I do think that Ben Johnson is one of the top 5, if not top 3 play callers in all of football. So I think that does increase the chances a lot, because moving on from him, and by all accounts, it would be an internal hire by the Lions, and they would be promoting.
Who would it
someone
be
up.
inside?
Like, it would be either Tanner Engstrand, who was interviewing for the Patriots offensive coordinator job last week. But if Ben Johnson ends up leaving, I think he'll take the Lions job. So I think it'll be him, or maybe they go somewhere else, like Hank Fraley, if they really want to keep their offensive line coach. So, but yeah, no, I mean that's a great point to bring up. Like if Ben Johnson is able to stay, I feel a lot more confident about where the Lions offense can be at next year.
And I think we just saw with the Eagles, and they've gone full guns a-blazing this offseason to address the attrition, where Vic Fangio now at DC, you bring in Kellen Moore as OC, and they're just they're getting the dudes back together. And I think Nick Sirianni's not messing around, but they got destroyed, picked apart in the coaching market, and losing Shane Steichen and who am I blanking
Jonathan
on?
Gannon.
Jonathan Gannon, yes. That was hard to lose both those guys for an early coach, Nick Sirianni, and a young coach still figuring stuff out, that we just sometimes can overlook. The Lynx, as dominant and as strong as a roster Philly had, they were still vulnerable, and they were still searching for answers and making late season DC changes, and they were just in a weird spot. So I'm very curious if the Lions ultimately do find their way back. Do you think, how much of it is Jared Goff? Do you think Jared Goff is 100% back?
Why, that's what I wanted to know. Like,
yeah,
no one's asking that question. Are they keeping Jared Goff?
I don't think you can get
rid of him. Or are they going to Jared Goff?
I don't think you can get rid of him at this point.
JP's right. Like, I think, so that's what I mean.
Like, quarterback.
Well, you already did. You have Hendon Hooker right there. Hold on, Hendon Hooker is ready to go.
Chase's guy last year. Yeah. That's the thing where it's like with Goff, it's like, so you're going to give him an extension this offseason. If it's $45 to $50 million APY, which is like what he's going to be asking for, after the Daniel Jones contract last year, like that's where I'm saying like the margins become very thin, where Goff is on an extension. Sewell is going to get a market resetting extension. St. Brown is going to get top 3, top 5 wide receiver money. And so now this is like where the difficult part of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's regime starts, where it's like you're going to have pretty expensive players and you're not going to be able to play with like this kind of mindset anymore. And I think I'm very curious to see how they handle it.
Yeah, I don't think you can move on from Jared Goff after the last couple of years. I think not only from a statistical standpoint, where he just works so well with Ben Johnson and that offense, but from a team building standpoint, it's going to be really tough to sell to a bunch of guys who are going to still be on that team that you moved on from the quarterback that played really, really well this year.
But that's the thing. You draft a quarterback, and you'd be like,
they're going to be drafted.
He's got 1 year left. We just got to figure it out. You got to be safe.
They're going to be drafted 29th. I don't think there's going to be a quarterback as good as like. I don't think there's going to be a good enough quarterback that you draft.
Are they 29. Not a sneaky? I mean, Michael Penix right there. You wouldn't like that? He can sit.
Penix is going higher.
They have Hendon Hooker there already.
Yeah. Well, you already got QB1 right there. I don't know what
enough
how many Tennessee volunteer quarterbacks are thriving in the NFL?
I'm sorry, he's your wide receiver 1, Evan Sowards. Juwan Jennings was the highest rated quarterback in that game on Sunday. Did you know that? Did you know that, Evan? He was a phenom here in Tennessee in high school as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Higher rated than Brock, Goff.
He had one catch for 8 yards.
Hey, he's out here. He's orchestrating the offense. He's doing his thing.
Blocked his ass off. But I think, like Tej said, the road becomes harder now. Each year, you cannot run it back in the NFL because everybody's getting better. You constantly have to be reinventing yourself, making yourself better within the margins. Again, using the Chiefs example, the Chiefs weren't complacent after the AFC title loss to the Bengals. They traded Tyreek Hill. They got rid of like one of their engines of the offense, and then they were in the Super Bowl the next year. Like, you constantly have to be on the path of finding and reinventing ways to run your offense within the margins of the NFL, because that's where everybody has to win. Like, everybody's got talent in the NFL, but you have to win in those small areas that separate good teams from being great. And now this is where the Lions are, especially if they extend Jared Goff. You now have to work in we got to find the value signings. You have to find a Jadeveon Clowney.
I mean, hold on though. Listen, he's a nice story and all, but if you're Holmes and you're looking at Jared Goff, you're like, hey man, we saved you. We brought you in. We let you win playoff games. It's a great story, but you're not getting a fucking extension yet. Like, we're going to draft a quarterback and you're going to compete. And that's just how it is. And you should be so thankful, because you could have ended up in like Arizona or something. Like,
the problem there is, how do you explain that to the team that loves Jared Goff?
Yeah.
And building those guys up. Because
I would just point to the 2019 to 2023 49ers NFL seasons and say they loved Jimmy Garoppolo over there in San Francisco.
Yeah, but they also had number one players at almost every position. Like, it's generally
okay. Literally, let's not do that. The Lions, Aiden and Bosa are like, they're probably related.
No.
But they're probably related.
They might be related.
You're telling me that there's not a fourth Bosa running around? Come on.
They might be related. Aiden Hutchinson is not as good as Nick Bosa.
He's younger.
He's right.
He's younger.
He's right.
That does not mean, sure, you can be young and still not as good. Like, the potential thing is great, but potential, until it's realized, is just potential.
Listen,
but he's even in better potential. I saw that picture of Nick Bosa not in like his full-on pads and everything. It looks like he's wearing his own pads. Like, his muscles are pads. I don't know if you've seen like the thighs where I'm like, what is that? Like, what is Nick Bosa's body? Like, he's like the Hulk.
He's Homelander.
Yes.
So many ways.
He's Homelander.
Many ways.
Genuinely, first off, relax, okay? I would like to know.
That's one of the best comps. That's one of the best comps I've ever heard, actually.
I would like to present to the court that the first thing Nick Bosa did when they won that game is hug Javon Kinlaw. I think there's something there. I'm just saying.
Congratulations.
Listen, he probably grew up with hella MAGA parents and hella Republican-ass parents. He was a child getting force-fed propaganda. He made a couple dumb tweets, and ever since, he's been a great teammate. All right?
A couple.
Evan wants a Super Bowl so bad.
A couple.
Listen, man, no one likes Cap more than me. All right? This is hard for me. I am a bleeding heart liberal. But the kid has grown. He's a good teammate.
Hey, I'm just not going to ask.
He's doing the work, JP.
I'm just not going to ask where the Bosa's whereabouts were on a certain date in 2022 or 2021.
It's January, man. You know that they're practicing.
Joey Bosa might not. When has Joey Bosa been practicing in January?
Listen, man. Hey, if I was judged by my brother, come on. Like, listen. You know, family's hard. Family's hard. You grow up. You can't choose where you grow up.
Either way,
you can't choose how your parents use bed sheets. That's not up to you.
Hey, look. I'm just saying, his parents ain't the ones that sent the tweets.
He's a child.
I was a child.
Listen, man.
That don't mean I'm tweeting that shit.
Listen, man. He didn't know any better. You grew up with good parents. He grew up with his parents probably tried to stick him with steroids when he was 7. It's not the same.
What is happening?
So
they probably had him watching American History X and turned it off halfway through every Sunday.
Oh my God.
Either way it goes, I just think that the road for the Lions becomes harder now. And the thought of just saying like, yeah, we'll just run it back with everybody. We don't have to improve on anything. We'll just hope the young guys get better. That's how you end up being the Jaguars, where you hope everybody gets better and you still can't win within those margins and you end up in the exact same spot that you were.
I do think that I do think
And
that
the
Lions can
Chiefs
look
were forward enough to take to trade up to take Mahomes to at least give themselves an opportunity to have an out if they weren't able to keep doing the Alex Smith 11-5, maybe win a playoff game or whatever, right? Like I think that's what the Lions are going to have to consider here, if they want to make that same type of gamble.
Exactly. Like Chase, love you. Hendon Hooker ain't it.
We don't know that. He hasn't played. The man's lost all the teeth, and he's still out here vibing.
I absolutely know that.
Lost 4 against Baylor.
I don't think I've ever seen someone be inactive before for a tooth, but I hope he's doing okay.
That man is 48 years old and came from a Mickey Mouse offense.
That's okay. Not nice. And he's just a winner. Many are saying one of the best leaders to come out of the NFL draft in recent years. But
you know what? Hey, maybe you know what? Hey, listen, you like mid boring ass quarterbacks. Maybe you can join Desmond Ritter in Atlanta.
No, I would have loved to have Hendon Hooker as my quarterback. I would love for Hendon Hooker to be my leader of my football team for many, many years. Just an absolute delight. Love Hendon Hooker. But no, he lost 4 teeth. He got hit in the face by Dallas Turner 3 years ago, his first year at Tennessee. People don't realize that.
First off, Geno Smith. Geno Smith got a broken jaw. That didn't stop him.
Well, I'm just saying he didn't stop. Hooker played the rest of the game. Like it was casuals. Somebody else on Tennessee actually unveiled. He was like, "Yeah, no, he actually got knocked," and he just kept going. So the man, I'm concerned about how many fake teeth. He's like a hockey player at this point. But no, look, Hendon, he'll be fine. He's gonna get a shot. They're gonna let Hendon compete for that job.
Okay. I just think it's gonna be really interesting to see what the Lions do with the Goff contract. Because, like Tej said, there's opportunity here. If not this year, then next year, where you can potentially build up to go draft that next guy after Goff if you want to prepare for that inevitability. But right now, where they're sitting at 29, I don't think they can, with still some of the holes that they have defensively. They need another pass rusher. They love Jack Campbell. He's an off-ball linebacker. We got to stop with him at edge. James Houston is a pass rusher. They need an every down guy. They need a lot of help at corner because you know who
else needed help at corner and edge? The 49ers. The Lions can follow the blueprint.
You can just sign Charvarius Ward and go.
Maybe not that blueprint.
Yeah,
yes, but not literally Ward.
When you have Fred Warner, it covers up for a lot of
just tell Fred Warner to go play corner. It's like, all right, man, you'd be the best corner in football.
Well, and then we also got Dre Greenlaw, who's like,
Fred
Warner.
Yeah, it's like trying to replicate the 49ers is pretty hard.
Tej, the most telling result was who for you between the two? Who do you think told a bigger story of like, oh, that exposed this team more than the other game between the two conference title games? What do you think was the more telling result about where a team actually was based on what happened on Sunday?
That's a great question too. I think it's the Ravens, and like specifically the Ravens offense. Like JP mentioned, Mike McDonald was awesome, especially after the first 2 drives. Like really shut down the Chiefs offense. But like when you look at the Ravens offense, and they had so much success this year with this new iteration of this high-end passing attack with Todd Monken leading the way and Lamar just showing a ton of improvement of what he's able to do in the pocket and when he moves outside of the pocket, and Zay Flowers coming in, and they just show that they're still a little bit away from having a very, very good passing attack that can maybe compete with a good defense on like a tough day like that. And I think that when Odell Beckham doesn't get a target until the second half, and you can't expect much from Nelson Aguilar, but like he doesn't have a great game, or like the secondary receivers just weren't there for the Ravens yesterday. And like I think that's why like they still will have to retool some of that room going into next season just because of that.
I think the most disappointing thing was the lack of answers Todd Monken and co kind of came up with at halftime, because the thing that they did against Houston, they adjusted in the second half. Lamar was getting blitzed a lot. Okay, we'll throw the quick game. Against the Chiefs, if you're going to choose not to run the ball, one, and choose not to throw the quick game and just make everything 20 yards downfield, that's playing directly into what the Chiefs want you to do. You
Hmm.
are making your offense one-dimensional. You have to find ways to be efficient outside of the high variance downfield passing attack. The lack of adjustment. I think Lamar also had a very up and down game. I think he played.
Yeah.
He tried to will a lot of throws. He tried to will somebody open. Like he tried to force it. I think a lot. He was trying to force passes downfield because there was nothing else. There was no other option. There was no check down. It is either 20 yards or I got to throw this away. I think he could have scrambled a lot more. I thought it was weird that he just decided not to run in this game and not use his legs. But the overall lack of adjustments on the offensive side of the ball was really, really kind of disappointing to me, especially because, again, after the first drive by the Chiefs, the Ravens completely adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was to the same thing that y'all have said about the Ravens adjustments, because Todd Monken has just been an elite play caller at the collegiate and NFL level for years now. Like, he's just never really had any issues. And I mean, you go to the NFL and it's just, they don't miss a beat. He doesn't miss a beat. Like, he had Georgia absolutely humming. He turned Stetson Bennett into a Heisman finalist and had Georgia just destroying people any way he wanted to last year. And the year prior, really. This year, he has Lamar at an MVP type level. He's able to turn this team into something that Greg Roman just couldn't do. And to see him just kind of go the way he did, where like my Georgia friends who are tweeting and they're like, I just don't really recognize what Monken's doing here. Where like Monken seemed like he just called a bad second half. And like, it speaks to what you said at the top, JP, where it's like the passes, just the lack of running, it all felt like they were in their own head. And Monken just seemed like he did not call you just couldn't have a situation where Monken has an off day. And it just felt like Monken had an off day at the worst possible time, where like we haven't seen it in so long that it's a testament to how good Todd Monken has been as a play caller for years now, but we've never seen him just get completely stumped and just eviscerated like that by an opposing team.
Anybody else feel like hearing the word Monken that many times like made the name sound really weird? Monken.
Monken.
Monken. Just keep saying Monken.
It's a very
Monken.
football coach name.
Like,
It is.
If your name's Todd Monken, you are only a football coach.
Well, he's a family of coaches. Like, there's multiple. I think his brother. Yeah, it's a whole family. It's a family business.
If your last name is Monken, like, you got to be a football coach. Like, that's a football-ass football coach name. Like, that's all you do. You coach ball.
I don't even have a joke for that. Like, I agree. Like, I tried to think of other things, and no.
Also, the previous OC, Greg Roman. That's a coach. That's a football coach. Greg Roman.
Dog. Poor Justin Herbert. Please, dear God, don't. Please.
Is that the favorite to get the job?
I mean, think about it. Think about it. I was surprised Fangio went to the Eagles.
Well,
I thought they were going to get the band.
You wanted to be closer to home.
Yeah,
I thought they wanted to get the band back together.
Fangio's from Philly, and he wanted to be closer to home. They're reuniting the most Italian coaches in football in Philadelphia. They got Big Dom back, Clint Hurt on the sideline. Big Dom and Clint Hurt looking like the Dudley
Clint
Boys,
Hurt is gigantic.
I will say this: the Eagles are going to win less games next year.
Again, Clint Hurt, football coach.
Yeah,
that's a ball.
That
coach
picture of him. That picture of him is
insane.
That picture is crazy.
He is gigantic.
He is either going to be a football coach or a country singer.
That man coaches ball. That is the only thing that he knows what he wants to do. He wants to coach ball and talk ball.
He's a big boy.
JP, what was the more surprising result of the conference title games? Was it the Chiefs winning or was it the Niners winning for you?
Going into the games, I thought Baltimore would win. But I had a feeling that if the Chiefs were able to put together a performance like they did, the Chiefs would win. I didn't think the Niners would win the way they did. I think that's the most surprising thing of the week.
Yeah. I think the answer is the Niners winning in spite of the way they started.
Yeah, in spite of looking abysmal defensively in the first half, they found answers. They found answers offensively. And I think the second half adjustment of telling Brock Purdy, hey, you can run, which is, again, the biggest difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy G is Brock Purdy has the chaos meter in his head turned up. Jimmy G's chaos meter was broken. He only cooks by the book. He is a paint by numbers quarterback. Brock Purdy won't paint by numbers sometimes. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. But you got
Brock Purdy's gonna paint by 360 bamming it on your ass.
Yeah, Brock Purdy is
By the way,
gonna.
that was wild that he did that. That was insane.
Brock Purdy is going to, again, he's got Freebird playing in his head. Sometimes you got to live with it. You got to roll with it with Brock Purdy. He's going to throw passes to defenders that hit them in the face. But his ability to scramble and use his legs and create is what makes him different from other Shanahan acolyte quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That is the big separator. That's what turns this offense from being great with Jimmy G to being one of the most efficient offenses we've seen with Brock Purdy. He is able to lean into the chaos a little bit without necessarily going completely off the deep end of chaos, which he has done. Like he does, like in the first half of the Lions game, he went off the deep end into the chaos. But being able to temper that with the timely scrambles on third down when they play man, that was the big thing.
You think about and Evan, I'm sure you can probably relate to this more than I can, but if Jimmy G got pressured, you would hold your breath and you would just hope that nothing bad would happen. When Purdy gets pressured, chances are, when any quarterback gets pressured, it's usually not going to turn out well. But there is the path for them to do something on that play, and the play where he hit, use check for, I think it was for a first down on the sideline, or just different plays like that. I think was what separated him from the other quarterbacks that JP was talking about.
Your point is valid, and what I would say and add to that is every time that we watch as a 49ers fan, Brock Purdy, that moment happens, the tension that we feel has nothing to do with Brock Purdy. It's all about, the Jimmy G's, the Colin Kaepernicks, the Alex Smiths, everything Brock Purdy has. The only way I can equate to it is being in a toxic relationship, and then the next person you date is perfect, and you just still it's hard to relax and settle in because you're I know they're perfect, but that's what it's like. Brock Purdy has given you no reason to think ever that something bad's going to happen. He just makes plays. Brock Purdy is undefeated in the playoffs in games that he's finished. Did I answer the question?
That's the other part of it. We'll end here. Has y'all's opinion of Brock Purdy changed at all based on what he's done in the last two playoff games? Has your belief in what he can be ultimately,
let me
his
say this,
capabilities? Yes.
Let me say this, and then I think they should add on top of that. I feel like the last two playoff games have given the final pieces to the puzzle. I've seen him be efficient. I've seen him, run the offense the way it's supposed to be run. I've seen him make plays, but now I've seen him back to back in really tough games go in and come back and lead the team to win both times. So the only thing I need to see him do next is win the Super Bowl.
My opinion of Brock Purdy has not changed. And I think it is largely because we do this thing with quarterbacks where they are either Tom Brady or they ain't shit. And we've done that with Brock Purdy, where he is either elite or he is the worst quarterback alive. There is a gray area there where he can just be fine. He can just be good. He can just be a good quarterback. I think we've gone too far into the, oh, he sucks, and too far into the, oh, he's elite, one of the three best quarterbacks in football. My opinion of Brock Purdy hasn't changed. I think he, like I said before, the things that he does are different from the other previous Shanahan quarterbacks, and that chaos is that's what makes this 49ers offense, that's what raises the ceiling of the offense. with Jimmy G and the other previous quarterbacks in the Shanahan offense, the ceiling has always been capped because you knew under pressure, Jimmy G was going to turn into a pumpkin and he was going to do that little spin around thing in the pocket and then just fall. Brock Purdy is going to spin around in the pocket and do really stupid stuff, but sometimes it's going to work. And leaning into that chaos is what kind of elevates that 49ers ceiling. So he can just be fine. He can just, like, going into the season, he's fine. Like, he's a fine quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I like it. So final thing here, as we, Tej, you've been great here, but now that we've talked it all through, what's your pick for Chiefs Niners in Vegas in 2 weeks?
Oh man. So just kind of thinking it out in my head, because I haven't really picked someone, I guess, yet, with it being so early in the week here. I think, again, like what I said earlier, where you go by anything, like the 49ers have been the better team this season, but it's just so hard to pick against these hyper specific things that happen to the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I'm going to lean Chiefs in this game, just because you don't want to be on the wrong side of picking against Mahomes. Sorry, Evan. I think that's just where I'm at right now.
I totally get it. I mean, I will say this. The 49ers, every time that they've really had a chance of getting to the Super Bowl, I've always been like, they've got this wild defense, and this defense is what's going to give them a chance to win, right? You think about going back to Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis and Aldon Smith, Justin Smith, all the way now to Nick Bosa, obviously, and Fred Warner and things like that. I don't know if the defense is what will win this game if the 49ers win. And so it's really uncharted territory for me. I think the bad guy at the end, in the dark smoke coming out of the, into the shot, like, I think Patrick Mahomes is all the same. The Chiefs are a little bit different this year, but the Chiefs are still the same. It's Patrick Mahomes is the guy that you got to beat. So I don't know if I can say that I think the 49ers are going to win. I think they have a chance to win, and they're going to have to be perfect to do it.
So,
do we want to save? Hold on, JP and Evan. I was giving it to Tej here because Tej will not be back. We loved having you this week, but Jarrett should be back next week, Tej. So I was getting his on record here, but I wanted to give y'all a week before throwing your official ones on the official preview show next week.
I'm not throwing my official one out there, but I cannot get last year's game between the Niners and the Chiefs out of my head from a Chiefs offense versus Niners defense standpoint. The Chiefs scored 44 points, and Patrick Mahomes posted a 28.1 total EPA.
We had the injuries, though. We did have injuries.
Again, these two teams are very different, but you're facing a better Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid with 2 weeks to prepare for this defense that he has already carved like a Thanksgiving turkey. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's like you said.
Yeah, you just gave me the 15-minute highlight video I watch every night before bed. This will be the one I'll have to watch tonight. Then is the Chiefs 49ers game last year.
That's right. Like Evan said, you got to face the bad guy in the smoke. This is the anime boss. This is the final boss. Like you got to beat that guy first.
I mean,
I love it.
Yeah.
Tej, what can the good folks check out from you all across the internet this week?
Yeah, appreciate you letting me do this and coming on and promoting some of my stuff. So I do a weekly podcast with my friend Sean Syed called Stats and Scheme that you can find every Tuesday on the Sumer Sports show feed. And then if you go to sumersports.com, we are going to have a Super Bowl preview PDF up on next Monday. So be sure to check that out as well.
I love it. JP, what about you over at sbnation.com?
Yeah, so I'm going to be working a lot on NFL draft stuff with the Senior Bowl being in Mobile this week. Going to be watching a lot of Senior Bowl content, even though I won't be there. Going to be prepping a lot for the Super Bowl. I will be in Las Vegas for the Super Bowl next week.
Are you really?
Yeah, I will. I'll be headed out to the Super Bowl, hoping to do some pretty cool content.
Where are
from
you
there.
staying?
I'm staying off the strip. I'm not staying in the Dorito Hotel, which I am very sad about. But
It's such a trash can. Be happy.
I kind of just want to go. It's kind of like the Bass Pro Shops pyramid for me. Like I just want to go to see it.
It's genuinely one of the worst hotels in Vegas. It's a trash can. I can't believe.
Are you going, Evan? I didn't even think about this. Are you going to get tickets?
I mean, it's the end of the podcast. People might not be listening. I think if someone wants to send this poor little child, this poor little orphan to the Super Bowl, I'm down. But man, dude, it's like 12 grand. It's 12 grand because it's 8 grand plus the fees and all that. Like it's literally 12 grand to go. And
that's crazy.
One, that's crazy, insane. Like just in general, like I make good money and that's still insane. But like I can't pay 12 grand when Patrick Mahomes is the person you got to beat. What are the, you know what I mean? Like I can't do that because I'm not
so
like
if it's the Lions. If the Lions if the Ravens had won, you're going. No question.
Oh, if it was the Ravens, I don't know. I'd be scared about that too. They beat the shit out of the Niners earlier this year.
So what's the quarterback threshold here? Like who is the quarterback where you stop and be like, oh, okay, I'll go to this one.
I mean, like the Jordan Loves of the world, I'm going. I think Josh Allen, I would have gone that interception throwing clown wherever Jarrett is, you're all like, oh my God. I'm sad that Jarrett and me have not been on the same podcast. Josh Allen is a fraud. I don't even know.
This is true end of podcast content right here.
I mean, he's doing. But
literally, like
right
to me, literally though, it would have been like anybody but the Ravens and the Chiefs. I would be like, it's a hard sell, man. Like 12 grand is a lot of money. I don't got 12 grand in savings.
That's a lot of money to potentially like have your heart ripped out.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
I'm not.
You know what we should do? We need to get Evan a media pass because Evan reacting in media row would be unbelievable. Like just startling.
Incredible content.
Like just startling all the just beat writers and everybody else just like trying to file, and Evan's just like grabbing them like we won the Super Bowl and just tossing their MacBook over the edge.
Sir, could you please shotgun a White Claw with me right now? Thank you. By the way, running down onto the field as the Niners are celebrating. Like, sorry, I get priorities here.
With my media pass.
That's fine.
Yeah. That's what we really need to do. That's the best way, is getting Evan a media pass for the Super Bowl. We need to find a way to do that. And just tremendous content, Evan, as a media member for the week.
Hashtag get Evan to the Super Bowl. Let's get that trending.
Let's do it. Evan, Tej, JP, thank you so much for the time. JP, Evan, I'll see you next week on our Super Bowl preview show. Tej, we'll have to have you on again soon. You were fantastic as always. Sorry about the Lions once again, but hey, you never know. They might get back. Maybe Dan Campbell's reverse psychology here gets them into gear, and they bounce back and they don't take the offseason lightly. But either way, thank you all, and I'll talk to you all very soon.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.